What is up, MMA fans? This is Tudo Leonte for Sherdog.com, and today I have the pleasure to talk with Bare-Knuckle boxing fighter, Mr. Francesco Ricchi. Hello, sir. How are you today?
Good. Very good. Thank you.
I saw that you were in Rome a few days ago. Is that right?
No. I was born in Rome, but I went, last time I went was October last year.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going back to Rome on the 28th of this month because my friend is getting married in Puglia. A buddy of mine that I grew up with, he's getting married in Puglia.
You told me that you were born in Rome, and when did you move to the United States?
2001.
2001. Quite a while ago. What is it that you like about the United States, and why did you move over there?
Well, when my parents moved, I was 7, like a little over 7. So my dad had a good job opportunity, and we ended up coming here. And my parents thought we would get much better schooling, which they were right here in the States. So I love the U.S., my country, as I'm sure you know. Right now, there's no middle class. It's either you're poor or you're rich. And we weren't really rich. So, it was a little bit harder. People now are working 80 hours a week. And, we've been in the recession for 20 years. And obviously, there were a lot more opportunities here in the States. So we moved here. I was in like 2nd grade. And I've been going back pretty often. All my family, a lot of, close relatives, aunts, uncles, grandparents. They still live in Italy. A lot of close friends of mine growing up, they still live there. So as often as I can, I'll go to Rome and I'll go to Naples, which is where I'm from. So I like, or my family's from Naples. So I like going there to visit and going to Sorrento. And then obviously I've got friends that are getting married. Now we're, getting to our 30s, getting to that age where everybody kind of starts a family. So there's more excuses for me to go overseas, and not to mention the fact, but I'm also a yacht broker. So a lot of the times I'll sell Italian boats. Pershings, azimuths, a lot of Italian built boats, Ferrettis. And every time that I do, obviously I want to go over there and make sure that the build goes as follows, organize logistics and transport. So I go to Italy pretty often, thankfully. Through COVID, I didn't get a chance to go as often as I wanted to, but normally I would go to Italy about 2 times a year.
And do you still speak Italian? Parli ancora italiano?
Assolutamente.
Okay. That's good to hear, of course.
Dall'accento che anche te sei italiano.
Yeah, it's true. Well, of course, we're recording this interview in English since our audience speaks in English. Right now, we're talking since you're scheduled to face Ulysses Diaz with the interim middleweight championship on the line at the upcoming BKFC 26 on June the 24th. Are you still training at Freedom Fighters?
Yes, of course. Freedom Fighters is my main gym. That's where I learn how to fight, learn how to throw a punch with Manolo Lopez. I'm doing a lot more specific boxing work with my trainer up at a Delray boxing gym, Justin Barola or Justin Sanchez. But my main gym, my team is Freedom Fighters and Delray Beach Boxing.
Who are some of the fighters you have been preparing for this fight?
There's all my teammates down there at Freedom Fighters. Marcos Loretta, he's very credentialed. He's a veteran of the MMA fight game and doing nothing but good things recently. He's been my brother since the very first fight that I had. Justin Vasquez, Marcos Escudero is good boxer, good professional boxer. He's 14-1 in pro boxing. My buddy Daniel Ramy, he's a good amateur boxer. I've got a good solid team behind me. I've got Jamil McCline. He's a former professional boxer. He's a legend. He beat Shannon Briggs. He was 55-4, 55-5, I think, his professional boxing career. So very good credentialed boxer, but pretty much the same team. I don't, regardless of whether, I would not look good in a fight or maybe even lose a fight, I wouldn't switch teams. They're the ones that got me to the dance. They're the ones that showed me how to walk, how to ride a bike pretty much when it comes to fighting, figuratively speaking. So I'm never going to leave my team. This is the same team that I've had now for the last, since the beginning of my professional career, since the beginning of my amateur career too.
Who is going to be in your corner?
Manolo Lopez, Justin Sanchez, and depending, how many corners they allow in, I've got Marcos Loretta is going to be in there, and my buddy Ray Fondora. He's pretty much like a father figure to me. He's been there for pretty much all of my fights, just not too much the bare knuckle fights because they only allow a couple corners. So we got to see what we can do about maybe, you know, getting a couple extra corners in there, but definitely Manolo Lopez and Justin Sanchez.
Considering that you're competing in a 5-round fight, since you're fighting for the championship, did you change anything in your training schedule?
No, not really. All the fights in bare-knuckle are all 5 rounds, whether you're fighting for a title or not. They're all 5 2-minute rounds. And no, my cardio is one of my biggest assets. I could be dead tired and still have crazy output and not even show that I'm tired. So not really, I didn't change anything. We trained 5-minute rounds. You know, even when we're doing heavy boxing rounds, we're doing 3 minutes on and then 30 minutes off. My cardio is one of my best weapons. I don't think that I need to take anything special into consideration. I know that the intensity in this fight is going to be very high. So, you know, there's certain things that I'm working on that I'm, you know, perfecting, obviously, because we're working on a different opponent, different game plan, but nothing really different in preparation because this is a title fight as opposed to any other fight.
How do you see this fight going down?
I don't think it's going to see a final bell. You know, I think the way that Yuli fights, the way that I fight, I'm pretty sure this is going to be a knockout. If I had to guess, probably within the first couple rounds, because me and him don't really feel each other out. We kind of get in there and, you know, let our hands do the talking. But I know that it's going to be action-packed. It's going to be a very violent fight. Obviously, like nothing but good things to say about Yuli. He's a buddy of mine. But I know that me and him are more than likely going to steal the show at BKFC 26.
As you already guessed, I mainly interview MMA fighters. And I know that you did train in MMA for a while. Did you like it? And you also competed in MMA. You have a victory, a professional victory recorded. Did you like, you know, fighting in MMA in general?
I'm still an MMA fighter at heart. You know, I came to Bare-Knuckle because I got an offer to go fight for them after my first or my professional debut, and I've been fighting Bare-Knuckle now ever since. And obviously, like, I want to be the best at this, you know, and I want to ride this wave as much as I can. But I always plan to go back to MMA eventually. I love kicking. I love grappling. To be honest with you, it's something that I still train every day. My teammates in the gym, they're still training for their fights in MMA. So I try to be there as much as I can for them. So I've never lost the art. I still grapple. I still wrestle. I still kick. I still do everything that's involved in MMA. Of course, when I have a training camp, we focus on the boxing aspect. But yeah, I mean, I love MMA. I've been training with some really good, really credentialed professional fighters since I started training in MMA. Some Olympic wrestlers such as Alexis Villa, Romero. You know, I've never planned to stop fighting MMA. I didn't retire from MMA. Right now I'm so deep into bare-knuckle that's my main priority. But I love MMA. And to be honest with you, after my run in bare-knuckle, I think I'm probably gonna go back to MMA. But you never know.
Of course, life is full of possibilities. What is it that you like about bare-knuckle? You know, bare-knuckle boxing in general.
I like the pureness. You know, it's I don't know. I guess in a legal sense, it's the most vicious sport that you can be in because you really have one avenue to win. You know, I have to punch you or you have to punch me. There's no padding involved. You know, there's nothing to cushion any of the rawness or any of the violence. Of course, it's not really like human cockfighting. You know, it's still a sanctioned sport. There's still a referee and there's still certain rules that you have to follow. But I think that it's as raw as it can get when it comes to hand-to-hand combat. You know, of course, you're limited in the amount of weapons that you can use because you can only box compared to, you know, using grappling, kicking, and jiu-jitsu and everything else that you can use in MMA. But at the same time, I think that the rawest form of fighting comes when you're, you know, pretty much measuring your skills in the same aspect as opposed to having all these different martial arts to get involved. Like, there's only one way that either of us can win. It's either if I punch you and knock you out, or if I beat you in points. But regardless of the fact, the same two weapons that I'm limited to, you're limited to yourself, and we don't have any gloves on there to protect the padding. So it's a very, very, very high risk, but it's also a very, very high reward. And on top of that, it's also fun. I mean, I walk by the ring after after I fight, and I hear how loud the punches come, and I'm like, shit, like it looks like it hurts, you know. It's pretty violent, but I like it. You know, it's pure. It's a very, very, very pure martial art.
one of the craziest stories in combat sports in general involves you, and you know, you were in a coma for 3 weeks after your victory over Noah Cutter at BKFC 14. What happened on that occasion? Allow me to ask that.
No worries. I'll tell the story anytime. I got this lovely scar from a tracheostomy because of it. So in the first round, I go out there and the training camp was very funny. You know, I did radiation therapy for cancer that I had. I had a non-Hodgkin's B-cell lymphoma. I did radiation therapy a couple months before that, and I never put the weight back on. I was very light. And I just kind of like, very arrogant at the time, thinking that, oh, I can't lose, you know, I'm undefeated, nothing's going to happen to me. You know, I'm training with animals every day. I'm fine. Looking back at that fight, I made some mistakes that I didn't even make in my amateur career. As I went into the fight with Noah Cutter, I don't want to say I underestimated him because I respect the kid a lot. You know, he gave me my toughest fight to date. But I ended up kind of getting caught in a gunfight with a knife, because I ended up getting punched in the throat. You know, my chin was up in the air. I was making a lot of technical errors, and he was able to capitalize on it. Of course, it wasn't an intentional punch, but I ended up getting punched in the throat. And I remember right after I got punched in the throat, everything just felt off. I couldn't breathe. After a little bit that I started to get asphyxiated, you know, lack of oxygen, I started having a hard time seeing. Everything that was in front of me just looked very blurry, looked like shadows almost. I was coherent, but as fast as the time goes, when the referee says knuckle up and the fight starts, it's a really fast pace. Everything seemed like it was going even faster at that time. And I don't know how, but I kept, you know, getting dropped, but it was punches that I just couldn't see, and I couldn't see them because everything in front of me was blurry. Once I made it back to the corner and my cornerman gives me some water, I was able to kind of clear up my throat. I swallowed and I finally was able to see again, you know, and see in front of me. And then when I made it to the corner, or when I made it to the next round, in the second round, I remember my opponent was looking at me like ready to start the fight, you know, hurry up and finish the job. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, dude, I was like, you're going to pay for, you know, what happened in the last round. That was my mentality going into it. You know, I can't wait to recover to make this guy pay. And then from that moment on, from after the first round on, I was fine. You know, I wasn't hurt anymore. Nothing happened. After the fight, when all the nerves calmed down, the adrenaline spike is gone. Apparently the trachea, or my LaCroix, which is your voice box, that had a fracture in it, was seeping secretion and, you know, blood and pussy fluid into my lungs. So my lungs started to get filled up with blood. After maybe 1 or 2 hours after the fight was over, you know, the event was over, and I go in my hotel room and I lay down. Not only could I not talk, but as I lay down, I started to feel kind of like a choking feeling coming from my lungs. So that's when I was like, listen, I need to go to the hospital. I'm afraid if I lay down and go to sleep now, I might not wake up. So I go to the hospital. I actually drove from Miami all the way up to Broward General, which is it's in Fort Lauderdale. I got there. I don't even remember filling out any forms. I just remember them giving me some forms. And then after that, I knocked out, I passed out, and I woke up 3 weeks later. I woke up into December, into the next month. And I thought that it was the next day. I thought that I just went to the hospital, you know, they gave me some fluids. I just fell asleep because I was tired and I was good. And then I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, holy shit, I'm like really skinny. I lost a lot of weight. So, you know, I had a hole here. You know, they would keep sticking a straw down my throat to try to suck up all the secretion, you know, all the built up fluid that was there. And then I went back home, couldn't walk. I was in a wheelchair. And then it took me a couple of weeks before I could walk. And then to put the muscle back on, it took me a couple months. And then by then it was like January, like end of January, beginning of February. And then I was able to fight June of that year, like June 21st, I fought Brian Maxwell. So, you know, it happens. It sucks, but to be honest with you, I know that a lot of people will be mad at me for saying this, but I wouldn't change the outcome of that fight, because that fight opened up my eyes, let me understand that we're all human. Of course, you can make a mistake and be arrogant for not respecting, not necessarily your opponent, but just for not respecting the sport. You can end up in the same situation that I was in. You know, I mean, they were telling my dad that I more than likely wasn't going to wake up because my blood oxygen saturation was so low. So I'm happy that went the way that it did. And I'm more happy that I won the fight. You know, I truly believe in kill or be killed. You know, if you're in there, even if I would have quit, or even if I would have quit on the stool or gotten knocked out or gave up, you know, in the first round, the same thing would have happened. I would have still ended up in a coma. The damage was already done to my trachea. So I figured, you know, might as well keep fighting. Of course, I didn't know what was going on, but regardless of the fact, when I'm in there, I never have an off switch. You know, I want to keep going until I'm, you know, until I'm separated from consciousness. I want to keep moving forward, keep trying to win the fight, keep throwing punches, and do whatever I can to win. So yeah, that fight, you know, definitely opened my eyes for what can happen in a fight. You know, you can never think that you can be too prepared, and no matter what, I don't care who you are, I don't care how you are, whatever preparation you take, nothing is guaranteed.
That's quite a story. Wow, it's very interesting, and you know, hopefully, I mean, you're better right now. I'm glad to hear that. It's even more impressive since not only you won that fight, but you fought a few months later. You won that fight as well, and you keep scoring. There are all the stoppages, if I'm not wrong here. You're just recording.
Just one decision. Only the last fight was a decision.
Wow, that's quite an impressive record. Bare-Knuckle is growing in popularity in the United States and all over the world. Do you think that you will bring BKFC to Italy one day?
Oh, I hope so. You know, I'm bringing that belt to Italy next week. So, you know, as soon as I win it, when I go to Italy, I'm going to bring that belt back home. But I hope that we have an event there. It'd be awesome if we could even have it close to, you know, close to my hometown, close to Rome. But we'll see. You know, I know. I don't think right now the sport is big enough in our country to the point that they can make a card, fly everybody out there and make it worthwhile. But I think maybe in the next year, 2 years, especially if I keep winning fights, I think that they'll do it.
Best of luck. I would be more than thrilled to attend a live BK Bare-Knuckle event here in Italy. That would be more than awesome. Francesco, I finished all my questions. Do you have any last messages that you would like to share with us today?
Not really, man. Just tune in on June 24th to BKFC 26. You know, I made a promise after my last fight that we were going to be fighting for the title this time. Now I'll make you guys a promise that we're going to take the title on Friday. So tune in. If you're in the Fort Lauderdale area and you don't have tickets, by all means, reach out to me on Instagram. And yeah, see you guys on Friday. Or see you guys on Wednesday for the press conference.
Francesco, best of luck with your upcoming fight. Thank you for giving us a little bit of your time today, and hopefully I'll hear again from you in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you, my brother.
Have a nice one. Bye-bye. Ciao, ciao, grazie. Ciao, ciao.